In this first section, they ask us to solve where 0 is less than or equal to theta is less than 2 pi. So you can use a calculator for this. Let me clear this out. Mode for this needs to be in radians. When they say between 0 and 2 pi, they mean radians. So I arrow down and hit enter, so it's highlighted and flashing on radians. I am going to try to do my problems to, I'm going to say 2 decimal places right now, okay? So I'm going to hit enter for 2 decimal places, so the calculator will automatically give me 2 decimal places of accuracy. All right, and then I'm going to clear out of this. So first problem says sine of theta is positive 0.59. So even though you're using a calculator, you have to still draw your circle. Sine is like y, and y's are positive in the top hemisphere. So my 2 answers will be here and here. Your calculator will give you the one closest to 0 here with the preference towards the positive side. So the calculator is going to give me this in radians. Remember, in radian land, in general, this is 0. Since this is normally pi, this is about 3.14. Up here is about 1.57. Down here is about 3.41. And then all the way around is about 6.28, if you went all the way around the circle, like 2 pi. You're not really going to use this, but this kind of gives you a reference as to maybe your answers are correct, okay? So the first one, it goes sine of theta is equal to 0.59. Turn my calculator on. You're always going to use second when you're trying to find the angle. What I'm trying to find is the angle. So I go second sine 0.59. It's like the second is like the angle finder button, okay? And it tells me 0.63. So theta is equal to 0.63. So that's this answer right here. I want this answer here to be less than pi, so less than 3.14, and it'll be the same as this 0.63. So I'm going to say pi minus 0.63. So I'll go pi, really use the pi button, which is second here, minus, and I'm going to go second answer. So it's going to pull that 0.63 up, and I get 2.51. So those are my 2 answers for my problem. Next, it says cosine of theta is 0.64. So I draw my circle. And by the way, the only reason I knew to go pi minus this is because I drew my circle and I know my second answer is in the second quadrant. All right, next I have cosine of theta is 0.64. So I ask myself, where is cosine positive? Cosine's like x, x's are positive in the right hemisphere. So the calculator will give me this answer first. Then to find the second, I'll say 2 pi minus that answer, okay? So I'm going to go second cosine, because that's the angle finder button, 0.64, and my answer comes out to be 0.88. I want this answer to be 0.88 less than 2 pi, so I'm going to say 2 pi minus that answer, and that gives me 5.41. If you ever want to double check to see if your answers are right, like for instance on this one, if I wanted to check, I could ask my calculator, what's the cosine of 0.88? Let's just type that in. You go cosine 0.88, and it tells me 0.64. Oh, I did it correctly. Let's make sure I got the second one right. What's the cosine of 5.41? So I go cosine 5.41, and I get 0.64. So it looks like I did these correct. That was kind of like my check. You can always just double back, put it in, see if you got it right. All right, let's move on to tangent. I kind of hogged up its space here doing my check, but tangent of theta is 0.28. Tangent is y over x, so it's positive in the quadrants where the signs are the same, you know, like plus, plus, minus, minus. So the calculator is going to give me this answer. To get the second one, I'll just go plus pi, okay? So I'm going to go second tangent, 2.8. Calculator tells me 1.23. So theta is equal to 1.23. To get the second answer, I just go plus pi, and I get 4.37. So those are my 2 answers. Next, they say, where is sine negative 0.32? So I go, well, Sine is like y. Y's are negative in the bottom hemisphere. So the calculator always starts from here and it gives you the answer closest to here. The closest way to get there is to travel negatively, so I can already predict the calculator is going to give me a negative one. However, the directions tell me all my answers need to be between 0 and 6.28 or 0 and 2 pi. So I can't really use that, but I'll be able to use it to find what I need. So I'm going to go second sine negative 0.32. And the calculator, like I predicted, gave me a negative answer, negative 0.33. So to figure out my fourth quadrant answer, and I don't want it to be a negative, it needs to be between 0 and 6.28, I'm just going to take this negative answer and I'm going to add 2 pi to it. So plus 2 pi, and that gives me 5.96. To get the third quadrant answer, you know that this is pi here, and the distance between the x-axis and your answer is going to be 0.33 radians. So to figure this one out, I want it to be bigger than pi, so I'm going to say pi plus 0.33, and that gives me 3.47. I always like to put the first one I come to first and the second one next, so that's why I put them in this line, but it doesn't really matter if you wrote them in the wrong order. All right, let's look at the next one. It says cosine of theta is negative 0.72. Cosine is like x. X's are negative in the left hemisphere, so here and here. Calculator will give me this answer right here. So I go second cosine negative 0.72. And calculator tells me it is 2.37. Now, this distance between here and here is 2.37. I think you'll agree with me that this distance here is actually also 2.37 radians. But I want it to be less than 2 pi, so I'm going to say 2 pi minus that answer. So I'm going to say 2 pi, just 2 pi minus 2.37, or I can say 2 pi minus second answer, and I get 3.91. All right, the next one a little bit trickier. It says 2 cosecant of theta is equal to 5. So to solve this, I have to, first of all, divide both sides by 2. So that gives me cosecant of theta is equal to 5 halves. Now, the trick is I don't have, I forgot the C on the cosecant, sorry. So let me write it here. Cosecant of theta is equal to 5 halves. The problem is I don't have a cosecant button on my calculator, but I know the reciprocal of cosecant is sine, so I could say the sine of theta is equal to 2 over 5. And sine is positive in the upper hemisphere, here and here, so I could say second sine 2 divided by 5, so I get 0.41. So I get theta is equal to 0.41, and then to find this one, it'll be pi minus that. So I just say pi minus that answer, and I get 2.73. So those are going to be my two answers. Notice from a cosecant, I took reciprocal, and reciprocal of 5 halves is 2/5. Then I just solved like it was sine. All right, now we're going to do similarly with, except it'll be secants, okay? So first thing you do is you'd say, divide both sides by 4. So you get secant of theta is equal to negative 7 over 4. Well, reciprocal of secant is cosine. The reciprocal of negative 7/4 is negative 4/7. So all I have to do here is I know that cosine is x. X's are negative in the left hemisphere. So here and here. So in my calculator, I'm going to go second cosine negative 4 divided by 7. And I get my first answer of 2.18. So theta is 2.18. Then I know that this is also 2.18 here, and it's going to be less than 2 pi. So I'm going to say 2 pi minus second answer. And so I get 4.10. So those are my two answers. And that does it for the review for solving equations in radians using your calculator.